If you've not seen the first part of this story, check this channel or the link in the description box to watch so you would understand better. Or you can click at the top of your screen right now to take you to the video. After leaving Dr. Bryant's office, Tola was about to stop a cab when a black SUV car drove and parked in front of her. "Please allow me take you home, Miss Tola," the driver of the SUV said. It was Engineer Tade looking at her through the passenger side window. Tola could not believe the turn of events that morning. First, she had discovered that the man she had spent the night with was the father of the child she was carrying as a surrogate, and now he was offering her a ride. Tola was conflicted. A part of her wanted to hop into the car because it would be more comfortable and her body felt like it was what it needed at the moment. But the other part of her wanted to avoid any further entanglements with this man. After all, she had agreed to carry his child and it is all a business deal, so she didn't want any other attachments or complications. "Let me take you home," Engineer Tade repeated gently. Tola hesitated still, glancing at the luxurious black car and back at Engineer Tade. "Thank you, sir, for offering, but I think I can manage," Tola said eventually. "Please allow me to. You did me a favor yesterday and you are currently doing me one as we speak. Offering you a ride is the least I can do to show how grateful I am for these huge favors," Engineer Tade said, insisting still. "It is so nice of you to have acknowledged and appreciate what I am doing," Tola replied, impressed by Engineer Tade's humility. "But you are paying me already. You have actually made part payments, which is more than enough for me to pay for a cab. So, this is not some kind of favor I am offering you for free. I appreciate your kind gesture, sir, but I will pass," Tola said, acting stubborn and fighting seriously to suppress the part of her that wants to accept his offer. But Engineer Tade seemed like a stubborn man who would not be turned down. "Well, I agree that I am paying you for being the surrogate mother of my child, but I did not pay you for helping me and taking me out of danger yesterday. So allow me do this and see it as my way of saying thank you for yesterday," he said. "One good turn deserves another. I am a big believer of this and would not rest if I do not get to reciprocate a good deed," Engineer Tade added quickly again, as he senses that Tola was about to protest again. "Do not forget that I know where you live. So, if you do not allow me help you today, I will show up at your house every day, offering every help I can until you accept," he said. What a persistent old man and a bully, Tola thought in her heart as she hopped into his car, feeling defeated. The ride was quiet. Tola was lost in thoughts, her mind racing through the events that had unfolded so quickly since that morning. She was already pregnant with Engineer Tade's child. Surrogacy had seemed like the only solution to her financial problems, especially with Deji's surgery looming over her. But now that she had met the man whose child she was carrying, everything felt complicated. The thought of having Engineer Tade come to her apartment again was what had scared Tola and what had made her finally accepted his offer for a lift. For when he said that, what came to Tola's mind was the scene of the last night. How she had felt so warm when he wrapped his hands around her. How she had loved it and pressed her body so hard against his. And how she had wished at that time that it went beyond that. Tola wondered if Engineer Tade remembers that scene also. She recalled that he was knocked out and drunk, but she wondered if he had gotten sober and was aware that he had held her. What if he was sober and aware that I leaned so hard against him? The thought of it made Tola felt more embarrassed. Slowly, she tried to steal a glance at Engineer Tade's face, as if that would help her know if all the thoughts in her head were true. But he was calm and composed, and his expression gave off nothing. The car turned down at her street, and soon they were in the front of her apartment. "Thank you, sir," Tola said, as Engineer Tade opened the door and she came out. "Dr. Brian could not give me much information, but he mentioned that you are doing this because you needed money for your brother's heart surgery. May I know what hospital he is in?" Engineer Tade asked before Tola could walk into her apartment. "Why do you want to know that?" Tola inquired, wondering why he wanted to get that information. "I may help settle part of the bills and ease off the burden a little," Engineer Tade replied. "And what difference would it make? I got pregnant because of it," Tola said, sounding a bit louder before trying to bring down the tone of her voice, remembering that they were outside. Engineer Tade sensed the irritation in her voice, so he decided to let her be. "Tola, I know this situation is unusual, but I want you to know that I truly appreciate what you're doing for me. And if there's anything you need, now or in the future, for your brother or yourself, do not hesitate to ask me," he said, and left. Tola watched him leave, her heart heavy with confusion. She had had enough on her plate already, and though she could understand that Engineer Tade was only being nice, the last thing she wanted was to get beyond their business deal. Inside her apartment, Tola closed the door behind her and leaned against it, taking deep breaths. She needed to clear her head. The last 16 hours had been an emotionally chaotic one for her. "Tola, are you okay? I noticed you have been looking too tired lately. I can see tired lines beneath your eyes," Deji said to Tola one day when she went to see him at the hospital. Tola was able to deposit the full amount of the money for Deji's heart surgery after the 30% payment Engineer Tade had made. Deji's heart surgery was successful, but he still remained in the hospital as he was being given post-surgery treatment. Tola kept visiting him in the hospital from time to time as his treatment progressed. But then, the early signs of pregnancy were beginning to tell on her, and she suffered more morning sickness now. Hence the reason she was looking so tired. Deji had noticed it a few days before, and so why he had asked her. "I am fine, brother me. It's probably just work stress," Tola lied. Tola was beginning to worry about the pregnancy. At the time she had accepted the deal, she was desperate to save her brother's life and had not paused to think about what would happen afterwards. She had managed to control the situation and keep the truth from everyone and her brother up until that time. But she dreaded the coming months, knowing that she won't be able to hide it when the pregnancy starts to grow and will be obvious. She had lied to Deji that it was Femi who gave her the money for his surgery when he inquired how she got the money. And Deji kept pronouncing prayers of blessing on Femi, which secretly got Tola angry, knowing that Femi had refused to help her. Recently, she had also tried her best to avoid Femi. Not like he cared about her that much, because before this time, she has been the one making most of the efforts for them to see. She was beginning to realize that Femi cared less about her, and he was no longer the loving man she had first seen when he had asked her out. She was already planning to have a conversation with him to officially break off their relationship. Tola, having brought food with her to the hospital for her brother, stood up to pick it from on top the side drawer she had kept it. "Brother me, "Hoya, come and have your food. Come and have the food I brought," she said as she was opening the food flask. But immediately she opened all of it, she dropped it back quickly, covered her mouth with her hands, and ran to the restroom, where she began to throw up. The smell of the food had made her nauseous, which was common with pregnant women. "Tola, I think you are pregnant. That is, if you are not aware of this yourself," Deji said to Tola when she returned back from the restroom. Though he was a man, he was mature enough and knowledgeable to know that what had just happened with Tola could most likely be because she was pregnant. "Would you want to take a test now to be sure it is something else? Or am I right to believe that you are already aware of your condition?" Deji asked. Tola knew that the moment of truth had come. She would not be able to hide this forever. Slowly, she nodded her head to show affirmation. "Is Femi aware? Have you told him?" Deji asked, assuming that Femi could only be the one responsible for his sister's pregnancy because they were dating. "Yes," Tola lied, not prepared to talk about the truth yet. She decided that she would tell Deji the truth when he fully recovers. Deji, having no cause to doubt his sister's word, asked her what she and Femi had decided about the pregnancy, and Tola lied again, telling him that she and Femi hadn't decided yet. A knock on the door woke Tola up. She had been feeling so tired after her work shift at the Exquisite the previous evening. And though she had slept so deep the entire night, she still had fatigue and felt so drowsy. So, she had decided to sleep more and was sleeping when the knock on her door woke her up. Slowly and lazily, Tola stood up from the bed to answer the call at the door. "Engineer Tadi, what are you doing in my house this early?" Tola said, as her eyes suddenly brightened and the sleepiness vanished, shocked to see Engineer Tadi standing at her door. "May I come in, please?" Engineer Tadi asked politely. Tola moved aside and let him in. "Why are you in my house so early?" She repeated the question again. "Oh, I am sorry. I did not know that past 12 noon is still too early for you. Forgive me, please," Engineer Tade replied. Tola looked at the clock and realized that it was already past 12 noon. "Have I been sleeping that long?" she thought in her heart. Engineer Tade told her that he was there to see how she was faring because it had been a while. "I thought it wise to check on you," he said. "But you do not have to. You don't have to. This is a business deal and should remain so," Tola said, her tone and expression showing that she disapproves of how Engineer Tade is going about their deal. "Tola, I am fully aware that this is a business deal, but I think you should not refuse my gesture of concern and kindness. And even if this is a business, you deserve every care and attention you could get in your condition," Engineer Tade said softly. "It is my baby you are carrying, so I should..." Suddenly, Tola's door opened and Femi walked in before Engineer Tade could complete his sentence. "Father?" Femi said, shocked to see Engineer Tade in Tola's apartment. "Father, did I just hear you say it is your baby she's carrying? You are responsible for Tola's pregnancy?" Femi asked in disbelief. The previous day, after Tola had left the hospital after visiting her brother, Deji had been bothered about Tola, and after she told him that she and Femi had not decided what to do about the pregnancy. So, he thought to hear from Femi and to also use the opportunity to thank him for providing the money for his surgery, as his sister had made him believe. Having copied Femi's mobile number from Tola's mobile phone when she stepped out, Deji sent a text message to Femi. "First, I want to express my sincere gratitude to you for helping me have my heart surgery. I appreciate you and do not take your kind gesture for granted. Secondly, I thought to send you this message because I think that it would be good if you and Tola decide what to do about the pregnancy on time before the public also becomes aware of it. I trust that the outcome of your decision would be a good one. Thanks. Kind regards, Deji. His text read. And though he had not spelt it out openly in his text, what he expects is that Femi do right by making Tola his wife. And so, it was Deji's text that alerted Femi about Tola's pregnancy. He was surprised and angry to learn about Tola's pregnancy and so had gone to her house to confront her about it. But then, he was so shocked and almost speechless when he found his father, Engineer Tade Wellington, there and heard him say that it was his baby Tola was carrying. Femi is Engineer Tade Wellington's son, the son he had adopted and one who had caused him so much trouble. Accidentally one day, Femi had heard Engineer Tade discussing with his lawyer about his will. From their discussion, Femi learnt that Engineer Tade wants to remove him from his will completely. Worried and unhappy about this discovery, Femi confronted Engineer Tade about it. Then, he pleaded, promising that he was going to change all of his ways, including womanizing. But father, I would surely get married. How do you expect me to pick a wife to marry if I do not date? Femi said, trying to plead his case. Then date a responsible girl and not all these your sluts. Find a responsible girl and date her alone. Then maybe I would start believing that you are willing to change. I would include you back in my will and also resume your allowances, Engineer Tade said. And so, Femi decided to look for a responsible girl that he would present to his father to convince him that he had changed, while he intended to still secretly keep his other numerous wild girlfriends. He had noticed that Tola was different from the other girls that worked at the exquisite lounge and that she was more responsible. He was advised by a friend to pretend to really like Tola and to have fallen in love with her, so she would accept to date him and then he would later present her to his father. Girls like that would only agree to date you only if they think that you are genuinely interested in them, his friend told him. So, Femi had pretended to be a good and loving guy until he finally won Tola over. He told Engineer Tade that he found and was now dating a decent girl. Several times he had made efforts to introduce Tola to Engineer Tade, but every of those times, something important or an emergency comes up which takes Engineer Tade out of the house or town. And so, Tola never got to meet Engineer Tade before the time at Dr. Bryant's office, and also why Femi was not willing to help her because he wanted Engineer Tade to approve of her first as part of his plan. Tola almost collapsed. She dropped on her bed but didn't pass out. Did Femi just address Engineer Tade as his father? So, Engineer Tade is Femi's father, the one Femi had been wanting to introduce her to, Tola thought in her heart as she felt it raised. Femi Davis Wellington, Femi's full names. How can I be this dumb? Not for once did I pause to think that maybe, just maybe, Femi may be related to Engineer Tade. I mean, the last name is the same. How could you be so dumb, Tola? Tola kept thinking after the revelation. Yes, you heard right. The baby she's carrying is mine, Engineer Tade replied Femi. He too had been shocked to discover that Tola was dating his son, but somehow he did not feel bad about it and was ready to defend and protect Tola from Femi. I thought thought you were a decent girl. So you are a shameless slut, just like every other girl. Thank God I never took you seriously. I only asked you out because this man I called my father thought that being with a decent girl would make me change, Femi said in anger. But before his last word could sink, he felt a heavy slap on his face. Engineer Tade had given him a hard slap. "Get out of here, you ungrateful child," Engineer Tade growled as he opened the door and walked Femi out of Tola's apartment. "Fine, you two can have each other, slut and shameless old man," Femi said, cursing as he walked out, still rubbing his face where he had been slapped. "I am sorry, Tola. I did not mean to make your life complicated. But one thing I know for sure is that Femi does not deserve you. You heard him say he was using you, so never you for once feel bad that he left. Maybe this happened and is destined to reveal his true identity and prevent you from making a costly life mistake," Engineer Tade said as he moved closer to Tola, held her and comforted her. Tola only cried. She did not fight to free herself from him. The days and weeks that followed, same thing happened as Tola gave up fighting and allowed Engineer Tade to pay her frequent visits. Engineer Tade bought beverages and gifts on every of his visits. He would also buy her fruits and other healthy snacks. Also, he told jokes that made Tola laugh so hard while he watched her eat her snacks. And slowly, Tola began to grow fond of him and looked forward to his visits every day. She eventually told Deji the truth about how she became pregnant when he was discharged. And though he was grateful for his sister's sacrifice, he felt a sense of guilt, feeling that his condition had left her with little or no option. He became a little relaxed when he met Engineer Tade and when he noticed that Tola was becoming fond of him. Before that night that he had gotten himself drunk and ended up in Tola's apartment, Engineer Tade had been having constant unpleasant dreams about his late wife Bimpe. He would see her constantly cry and looking so sad, and then he would see himself move and attempt to touch her, but she would disappear. The dream was constant and it made Engineer Tade an unhappy man. That night Tola had helped him, he had seen his late wife in his dream again. But this time, she was not crying. She was smiling instead and seemed so happy. And like every other time, he moved closer and attempted to touch her. And surprisingly for him, as he later remembered when he woke up, he was able to. He saw himself hugging her tightly, and then she whispered into his ears, "I am happy that you have found a soulmate again. I am happy that she would fill the vacuum my departure created," he heard her say as she disappeared from his hands again. And after that night, she appeared in his dreams less, but when she did, she kept smiling, unlike before when she would cry. And so, Engineer Tade believed that though he and Tola had met in an unconventional situation and that the surrogacy and pregnancy had been a business deal, he believed that their meeting was divine. He realized that he stopped being sad as he used to since he met Tola, and that was why he could not stay away from Tola, even though he had tried to and knew that Tola was not comfortable around him in the beginning. "Tola, I understand that our meeting is as a result of a deal. I also understand that the age difference between us is much. But sometimes the heart chooses who it loves and wants to be with. Tola, please marry me. And I make you a promise this day that for as long as I live, I will love and cherish you," Engineer Tade said to Tola one afternoon when he visited. Tola, though she had also fallen for Engineer Tade, had not expected that he would ask her to marry him. A part of her wanted to jump on him and scream yes, but Another part of her remembered the age difference between them, and so she told him to give her some time to think about it because she wanted to weigh the pros and cons of marrying a much older man. Tola thought for days. She thought about what society would think. Then she came to a conclusion that she was an adult and not a minor, so it was legally okay. She also thought that he is a widower and not some other woman's husband, so it was also morally right. And though she had dated his adopted son in the past, there had been no form of intimacy and had only mostly spoken on phone. She can also tell that Engineer Tade is a good man and is morally upright. And most importantly, she found peace in her heart and was ready to love him even in his old age. And so, with these decisions and with Deji's blessing, Tola accepted to be Engineer Tade's wife. They had a simple yet beautiful traditional wedding, and 2 weeks after their wedding, Tola was delivered of their baby, a cute baby boy. As for Femi, he got himself involved in a fight as usual. He had stabbed the other party, who almost died. He was arrested for it, jailed, and sentenced to serve some years of imprisonment for attempted murder. Tola, Engineer Tade, and their son lived happily ever after. The end. I hope you enjoyed the story and that you learned something from it. I would love to know, so please drop your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video. Bye.